Hi, I'm Jordan Walters. Tonight, a live interview with history maker David Patterson. Him and his partner, Kevin Patterson, were the first gay couple to legally wed in the state of Arizona. Now, for their story. First of all, did your family support you when you came out, and how did you guys predict that they would react?
We grew up in very different families that had different ideas of what it meant to be gay. So with my family, I grew up in a household with three brothers. I'm third down the line. And for me, when I came out, my family was very supportive. I was the first person in my family to ever do that. They weren't really sure what to do with it. I wasn't really sure what to do with it, but we all came together and got through it together. Kevin's family, his story is a little bit different. He was in high school when he first talked to his parents about it, and they grew up in a southern town, very Baptist, very the way of the Bible is the way of life, and I'm not trying to align Christianity with being anti-gay, but in the Baptist community, it's something that's not acceptable. So when he first talked to his parents, they said, well, they supported him, they loved him, they said, we understand, but why don't you go to college first? And then once you go to college and you really get out and see the world a little bit, then you can, better understand what this means for you. And so once he came back, he said, yep, I'm still gay. And so they've really been a great support. We had a commitment ceremony about five and a half years ago, and all of our families came. Nobody in our family has been disrespectful, has been anything but kind and gracious to us, as if we were just any other heterosexual couple.
How did it feel to be in a world that didn't accept you and your beliefs?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I think Kevin and I really approached this from two different angles. Fresh out of high school, I wasn't, really sure what the whole thing meant. I mean, I knew who I was and I knew what I felt, but I wasn't sure, big picture, what that meant. How did I fit in the world? So I decided to go to school at NAU, Northern Arizona University, and I found a community up there that was very supportive. And I don't mean the gay community, I mean the university community was very supportive up there. And so I found my place in activism. I found that since I had that belonging and that sense of self there, I was able to do more. Back then, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were talking about marriage equality, and we were talking about, discrimination and practices that support or don't support us as citizens, as people, as couples, and as families. So I got really involved in that for a while, and then after I left, it kind of fell by the wayside for me, because I was trying to figure out what life looked like at that point, and how I was going to pay my bills and moving forward. Whereas Kevin had a different experience. He went to a conservative college in the Midwest where he actually had to sign a waiver that said he would not practice, and then not him, everybody had to sign a waiver to say that they would not practice homosexual behaviors. So he didn't really get that opportunity and that experience, and he continued to live in this world where it not only was not acceptable, you weren't even allowed to, breathe it, live it at all. And so I think for him, and I know from him because he's told the story before, it stifled his ability to discover who he was in that time. And when we were given the choice to be involved in the Arizona lawsuit, for me it was a no-brainer. This is something I feel like I've been fighting for 10, 15 years. But for him, he approached it with much more trepidation. He was concerned about what it would mean for our family, what it would mean for him. He wasn't sure he wanted to be an activist. He just really wanted the rights, but he wasn't sure that he was the right person to get involved. Now, since we've done this, I will tell you that has turned a complete 180. Right now, he's driving back from Tucson. He's involved with a local organization called Arizona Equality that works for LGBT rights in Arizona. And one of the big things we're focusing on now is transgendered rights, because we've got two divergent paths here. You've got sexual identity and sexual orientation, and so with the sexual identity, that's more of the transgendered has just received federal protection, right? So they've been brought into the fold. As a citizen, they have full protection due to their gender identity, whereas gay and lesbian do not. We are still not protected under we're not a protected class, but we have marriage equality now, so that's awesome, right? So I guess to answer your question in a long and in a short way, gaining marriage equality for us was a big step forward to say, as citizens, we have the same rights as everybody else. But as now you're seeing this backlash, which always happens, right? Anytime there's a progressive movement in civil rights or social rights, there's always a backlash that comes out. And I'm not comparing gay rights and black rights, but I'm drawing a parallel of how the reaction occurred. When slaves were set free, there was now separate but equal rules put in place. So there was a backlash on that, and saying, no, we're going to preserve our way of life. When we achieved marriage equality, there's now a backlash coming from Indiana and I believe Arkansas, saying that, well, you can have your marriage equality, but you're still not going to get the same rights as everybody else, because now we're going to create legislation that says we can refuse you service because we don't believe that this should occur. So I take the approach that it's natural in our country's history that this is going to happen. The Supreme Court's going to hear marriage equality on April 28th, and I have a feeling it's going to become national law soon, which gives me sense of peace and sense of self to say, I'm just the same as everybody else. Really, what goes on between me and Kevin is our business and nobody else's, and why should that be legislated? But people think it should be, so we continue our work in that environment because we don't believe that our romantic life is really the concern of anybody else any more than anybody else's romantic life. So
Okay, so you've been very modest, but you are part of history. How does that feel?
Amazing. I feel so proud of what we were able to accomplish, and that so if I can share a little bit about you, how that day went down. We were called by our legal team, and they said a decision has been rendered, and it's been rendered in your favor. So if you'd like to go down to the courthouse and get your license today, that would be great. And I said, well, we already had a wedding ceremony a few years ago. I said, so why don't we just go down and get married? And they said, we actually would like for you and Kevin to be our first couple that's married. They wanted Karen and Nelda to get the first license, but they said, you guys, your story was compelling. Your belief and passion for this is compelling. And the fact that you have kids in the game, they felt that our family would be a very good representation of what it means to have marriage equality. And I agree. I feel proud of that. I feel proud that I got to be a part of Karen and Nelda, being together 56 years, and we signed their license and they signed ours. So it's really a neat part of the whole experience. And like I said, it's been very, very positive.
It's been a privilege and an honor to talk to you, and thank you so much on behalf of our group for talking to us, and to hear your part in history.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, you can call, text, email, let me know. I'm more than happy to help out with this. And I got to give you a lot of credit, because this is a hard topic to take on. When I was in school, this wouldn't have even been allowed. So props to you for the bravery around it.
Thank you.